Hey guys, welcome back to Unread Our Books. I am Brittany, and today I'm going to be doing the second part of my On My Shelf book tag. So I have 4 more books to share with you guys that people just chose random numbers for me, and I selected them from my book fort behind me. So these are more books that I don't usually talk about as much, and so I really wanted to kind of touch on those and maybe share some things you guys haven't heard of. So the first book that was selected was Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Women writers explore their favorite fairy tales, and this is edited by Kate Bernheimer, who writes her own fairy tales as well as has a couple other books that involve more fairy tale analysis. And I think I just found this at a secondhand bookstore and I just thought it sounded really interesting. But it has tons of really amazing authors in it. It's got A.S. Byatt, Margaret Atwood, Catherine Davis, Francine Prose, Faye Weldon, Lydia Millett, Joyce Carol Oates. It's got tons of people, tons of female authors, and basically their thoughts on fairy tales. So I'm really excited to get to this one. I'm not a huge nonfiction reader. I'm really trying to pick up more and more as I go. I'm finding that if I read a physical copy and listen to the audiobook, I do a lot better with nonfiction. So that's kind of my approach these days. So maybe this will be my next nonfiction that I try to pick up. And let me know if any of you guys have read this and what you thought of it. I would love to hear in comments down below. Next is a book that I added to my wish list, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, and I can't remember what it's about. All it has on the back is blurbs. There's no recommendations and like quotes from people who enjoyed the book. There's no description anywhere. I do know that this is a horror book. I feel like it's probably dystopian of some kind. But I knew that it was out of print, and then I think somebody reprinted it recently, but I found this at a library book sale, and even the reprinting is really expensive. It's like $20 or something. So I found this for, I think, 50 cents, and I was really excited to find it. Before the first chapter, there's this little page in italics. And it says, "That night I had terrible dreams I was killing people. When I awoke, it took some serious self-examination to convince myself that I was not repressing real acts of murder. So completely vivid was my sense of guilt that I felt nothing short of running through a full account of my life could provide me with the peace of mind I needed to fall back asleep. In spite of the 3 hours I spent combing over the details, I have, to this day, a very persistent certainty that hidden inside me is the revolting knowledge of days when I wasn't quite myself. I now suspect that my inexplicable bouts of exhaustion are due to the massive effort of keeping those days behind me." So that sounds really good. So like I said, don't know much about it, but it sounds awesome from that little blurb, and I'm excited to get to it. Was super excited to find this at such a great bargain. It also says it's a major motion picture directed by Bruce McDonald, so I'll have to look that up as well. Next book that was picked for me is The Last Summer of Reason by Tahar Dehawat. I think this is a translated work. So let me see. Yeah. Translated from the French by Marjolaine Dejager. Oh my gosh, I don't know. That's really hard to say. And this says, "In this chilling and prophetic work, dissident Algerian author Tahar Dehawat tells the story of a noble yet flawed bookseller's resistance to violent, rigid bureaucracy. The Last Summer of Reason, written just prior to his assassination, is a striking and poetic portrait of fear and fundamentalism." So I believe this explores the power of literature and what important jobs we have as readers and as booksellers and librarians and things like that, and how having that knowledge is so important. So this was definitely one that I really want to read. It's really, really tiny, and I think it's going to be a really, really powerful one. So I definitely want to get to that very shortly. I think I might pick it up next, actually. And the last book, I'm super excited to talk about it. I don't think I've ever talked about this on my channel, but it's one of my favorite series of books that I own. I've had them since I was a teenager, and I revisit them constantly, and that is the Bookless series by Nancy Pearl. Nancy Pearl is a librarian who's actually based in Seattle, so that's really cool, and I have met her before and gotten all my books autographed, which was super awesome. But she talks about, this says recommended reading for every mood, moment, and reason. So basically in this book is a whole bunch of recommendations. There's all different types of topics that you can choose from. I love doing this for gift giving ideas, and the best part is that they were published quite a number of years ago, and so you actually find a lot of backlist titles that people don't talk about as much today, which I really, really appreciate. So here's like a section on Japanese fiction. She talks about some of her like special segments are just about her favorite authors and which books she thinks you should start with. Here's like science fiction, fantasy, and horror section. Here's like a list of Southern fiction. So I just love these books, and if I'm ever in a funk and not sure what to read, I love to just revisit them. I'm constantly finding new titles on them because I believe there's 4 or 5 books in this series. There's Booklust 2, there is a Booklust for kids and teens. There's also a travel one that just shows you different, basically nonfiction and fiction based on location. So like if you're going on vacation to Fiji and you want to read about it, it has a mixture of nonfiction and fiction about Fiji. It's really cool. So I would definitely recommend you check these out. Even if you just check them out from your library and like write down some cool titles. Anyways, I can't rave enough about these. I absolutely adore them. And I just think it's such a fun way to find out about new things to read. So that is part 2 of my On My Shelf book tag. Thank you again to everyone who picked numbers for me. This is such a fun tag. I love doing this every couple months or so because it just forces me to pick up books that maybe I have forgotten about or haven't talked about before, and I think it's just really fun to rediscover those things with you guys as well. So leave me some comments down below if any of these are going to be ones we will be picking up, or if you've read them previously. I'd love to hear about it. So until next time, I hope you guys are having a great week and happy reading.